Hi there everyone. Today we're going to be looking at Galatians chapter 1. Now Galatia was a province in Asia Minor, which we would now call Turkey. And Paul had travelled there on each of his 3 missionary journeys to spread the gospel message about Jesus. And he had been warmly received, as had his message. But now it seems that some people have infiltrated the church there, whom Paul calls agitators later on in the book, and they have caused confusion. They are encouraging everyone to get back into salvation by works. Now, the gospel message, the core message of salvation by faith, as preached by Paul, is now being undermined. And his status as an apostle is also being challenged. He is having to assert that it is by faith that we are saved, not by circumcision. Non-believers, when they are becoming believers, are being told they have to be circumcised. Anyone who's not a Jew is being told that they must be circumcised to belong. And Paul needs to write to challenge this. And also his own status needs to be asserted. Before we go any further, discuss with your group any time that you have had to defend yourself or your faith. What did you say? Now, Paul immediately asserts his authority in verse 1. Paul, an apostle, sent not from men, nor by a man, but by Jesus Christ and God the Father, who raised him from the dead. Now, Paul does not appeal here to his friends or the other apostles to assert his authority and his call. He appeals to God. God has called him. Jesus has personally commissioned him to spread the gospel message. Now, Paul must have been really frustrated here. Imagine that you've been working with your children or a group of people or a group of students. You've been teaching them and they've come on really, really well. And you're proud of them. And then suddenly someone else comes along and says, do not listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. They're not who they say they are. You need to do it my way. And those children, those students, those people that you've worked with for a long time, listen to those peers and go off and do the very thing that you've been teaching them they don't need to do. How frustrating. I've experienced that myself at work. But Paul is saying that they need to not listen to these people. I think also Paul must have been really galled by the fact that they were attacking him personally. They were calling him a bogus apostle, that he was in this for himself. He was doing this for what he could get out of it. He was just trying to curry favour with people. But in verse 10, Paul responds by asking, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I was still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. The church's confidence in Paul and his message was being undermined. Paul needs to now write to say that he is not, absolutely not in this for himself. He is called by God. He is working for God, and his is a servant. He is a servant of Christ. And that's what we are, isn't it? We are servants of Christ. Everything that we do, whether it be parenting, teaching, working, whatever we're doing, is for Christ as his servant. Yes, we do it for ourselves as well, for fulfillment and finances, etc. But we're really serving God. And he has commissioned us to be where we are. And we're not in it for the approval of man or applause. As a musician for many years, my early career as a musician was very much about preparing for performances to gain applause. And being a member of the worship band, I've had to re-educate myself that I'm not up there for applause. I'm not up there for my own gain. I'm on that stage to encourage people to worship and to meet with the Lord in a very personal way. And it's not about me, it's about glory to Christ. And that's how we are supposed to live, not on a stage wanting applause, but in that position of serving Christ for his glory. Question 2 is, what is God calling you to do in this current season? Now, Paul goes on to say that the message he is preaching is from Christ. He has not made this gospel up. Verses 11 and 12 say, I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that the gospel I preached is not of human origin. I did not receive it from any man, nor was I taught it. Rather, I received it by revelation from Jesus Christ. He then goes on to say, after he said that Jesus gave him this message on the road to Damascus, but he reminds them of how he was before that time. He reminds them of how he persecuted the way, he persecuted the message, he persecuted this gospel. It was there before him and he was against it. In verse 13, for you have heard of my previous way of life in Judaism, how intensely I persecuted the church of God and tried to destroy it. The message was attacked by Paul before Jesus revealed it to him on the road to Damascus. He is not added to this message. Paul has spent time with Peter and James, the brother of Jesus, and the apostles whom he had been an enemy to have now accepted him, because verse 24 says, and they praised God because of me. Our final question is this: how might you feel if an enemy who had persecuted you suddenly came to faith? Join me next time when we will study Galatians chapter 2. Have a great rest of your day.